Mark, a couple arrows later in the model, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road, I think. The positive leader must, quote, confront, transform, and remove negativity. In other words, the honeymoon's over, and now you have to take a stand for that vision that is in place. It's being challenged. So what tips do you have for our listeners who have to do that?
Yeah. Part of the challenge in confronting and transforming and maybe even removing negativity is people don't have their values. They don't have clear values of what they stand for, and therefore it's unclear to the person. They can't point to, hey, you're not living by this value that we have. Yes, they're a negative person, but we need to be able to go back to our values and what we stand for to know that this is off base. We're not going to grab a kid's face mask. We're not going to hit a kid. We're not going to, those are all actions and behaviors that are wrong, but how are they reflected in our values? And I'm sure that those extreme examples I gave still are there. So number one is you got to have one tip is to have some firm, clear values, and those come from your vision statement. So let's have a vision statement. Let's have some values that you lay out, and you've got to be willing to confront. And sometimes, like, hey, you got to put on your big boy pants. You got to put on your big girl pants, and it's not what anybody wants to do, but it's what you have to do. Okay. And here's the challenge for you. And I see this in business as I train businesses in the power of positive leaderships. And I just got off the phone with coaching a couple executive leaders. And I said, what's your pain point? And their pain point was a person. And I might ask you as an athletic director, what's your pain point? Well, now we've got COVID and all these other things in scheduling. But you probably think of a coach. That's a pain point for you, okay? Patrick Leonsi wrote a book. I don't know if you follow him. He's a great business leader, called The Ideal Team Player. And the ideal team player is somebody who's humble, hungry, and smart, okay? Don't you want all of your coaches to be humble, hungry, and smart? Those are your favorite coaches, okay? And he has interview questions that you could use as you're interviewing people, of people who are humble, hungry, and smart. Patrick Leonsi also describes people who are like a piece of those, okay? The piece of those that is most dangerous for you to hire is somebody, and this is in the work environment. I've seen this personally as I've had 45 people on my team at one time. The person who's hungry, go-getter, getting after it, giving it the extra stuff. Somebody who's smart, not smart because they went to Princeton or Harvard, smart because they know how to relate to people, okay? They relate to people really well. The person who gets after it and is smart but not humble is your most dangerous coach. Think about it. Your most dangerous coach. Why? They're hungry and they're smart. They get after it. They are probably, in the work environment, they are your number one or number two employees. They might be your best coach in your department, but they are driving you absolutely nuts because they're not humble. They won't take your coaching. They won't modify. They won't do it your way. They won't increase your value. But you're stuck, right? Because a lot of people love them because they have a lot of success. And so you figured out how to navigate it in your own heart, in your own way. And there's no way you're very reluctant to confront and probably never going to remove them because they're winners. They're winners in that sense. They're not winners when you get behind closed doors. They're a nightmare for you as an athletic director. And you have a very difficult decision to make at that time. And so I'm talking to these business leaders, and their pain point is these people. And guess what they say about him? This guy is my top guy. He is brilliant. He does amazing work. And I said, well, what's the problem? He won't modify. He won't change. He won't take instruction. He won't adopt our core values. He just literally just ain't doing it. So you got to figure that out. And so when you have that kind of person, you have to decide whether I'm going to confront and maybe remove or not. Hey, I don't know if you guys are baseball guys, and I'm not a big baseball guy, but who is described, well, let me say, I don't, one of the best baseball players in the country, right, used to be on the Washington Nationals. Remember his name? What's his name? Best baseball player that was removed from the Washington Nationals. His name was Bryce Harper. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Some people said he was the best baseball player around. He making, signed the contract for $300 million, right, to go to Philadelphia. So guess what? Everybody's saying, wow, the Washington Nationals, great team, great team, great team, great team, great players, great talent. They didn't win the World Series. When did they win the World Series? When they removed the best player, hungry, worked hard, great player, smart, people loved him outside of the clubhouse. Was he humble? I don't know if he was really beaten to the drum that the managers in. They remove him. People are like, oh my gosh, remove the best guy ever. Guess what? The Nationals win the World Series the year after the best player, some would say the best player in the country, is removed. So I'm talking a lot. I better pause a minute here.
Do you think what we're talking about right now, is that what separates good from great leaders?
I think so. I really think so. When you follow online, sometimes you see, now it's a little more clear because of so much social media and TV coverage of colleges. Sometimes you see a college coach bench a top player or remove a top player. Why? Because he is not good for that culture. And we've all heard the phrase, one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And it is true. That is a truism, that one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. And for let's get down to the coach level, right? You have this one negative person, but he's your best hitter. He's your best player. He's scoring the most touchdowns. And that coach is coming to you in the office going, what do I do with this athlete? And you're both going like, oh my gosh, this is the big game we're playing this week. Or, he got in a bunch of trouble, but he is the guy who's going to score 5 touchdowns or throw 5 touchdowns, or he's the All-American that's going blah, blah, blah. And you're going, he is what Jon Gordon calls an energy vampire. Mm-hmm. He is an energy vampire. He is sucking the life out of everybody. And they're just afraid to make that decision. And thankfully, the Washington Nationals ownership was not afraid to make that decision. Bryce Harper was removed, and you see college coaches removing people. And an athletic director, I'm sure you're dealing with that from a coach level and an athletic director and an athlete level.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
You challenged me, Todd and Scott, so I'm going to throw a follow-up in there quick.